The voice of sharing, DurianASEAN.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, good morning. This is Arlene, and of course, you are listening with us at DurianASEAN, the voice of discovery and sharing. So, at our ASEAN Daily today, we bring you news from Southeast Asia. But first stop is an update, breaking news from Nepal. Another strong earthquake has hit Nepal, and the strong earthquake shook Nepal on Tuesday, sending people in the capital of Kathmandu rushing out on the streets just weeks after a devastating quake killed more than 8,000 people and destroyed hundreds of thousands of homes. Several buildings in East Kathmandu have collapsed. 4 reported killed, another 2 killed in neighboring Indian states. There were no immediate reports of casualties of major damage. Residents in the Indian town of Siliguri, near the border with Nepal, say chunks of concrete fell off 1 or 2 buildings. People in Kathmandu, panic-stricken after the April 25th quake, rushed outdoors, Reuters reporters said. Parents could be seen clutching children tightly, and hundreds of people were frantically trying to call relatives on their mobile phones. Shopkeepers closed their shops as the streets were jammed with people rushing to check on their families. So, in a way that the strong earthquake did give a really huge warning to the people of Nepal, but in a way, it is still a manageable quake in comparison to the quake that hit Nepal weeks ago. And on another news, this time is of course from Southeast Asia. It's an updated news from the updates that we have given you on the Rohingya issue. So according to a few NGOs that concerns the Rohingya rights, it is easy for illegals to cross the Thai-Malaysian border. Trafficking humans across the Thai border into Malaysia is literally a walk in the park. This is according to a Thai Muslim NGO. So up in the hills near Padang Besar, there's a border stone. The stone indicates the border between Malaysia and Thailand. There's no fencing, gate or any kind of barricade. This is expressed by Utana Sarasit. He's from the Muslim for Peace Foundation committee member. So it's quite easy for illegal immigrants to cross over into Malaysia. The Khao Kio mountain in Padang Besar is very huge, spanning Ratapum district to Satun province. Utana insisted that there are human trafficking camps and graves on the Malaysian side of the border too, although no evidence have been found by Malaysian authority. So I guess Malaysian authority, you need to keep on digging on that. On the other hand, I think it's quite a revelation for both Thai and Malaysian public, because this is something that is truly shocking, especially the graphic photos of the camps itself. How gravely disastrous in terms of the human rights consequences at the camp itself, and it's quite shocking that the authority have no clue about it. In fact, the authority seems to be as surprised as us. So I guess in a way that it's high time for both authorities from Thailand and Malaysia to do something about it, and to protect the human rights, especially for the Rohingya. They are already been having a lot of problems back in their own countries, not being recognized by their own government, and at the same time when they flee to countries like Malaysia and Thailand, and they are faced with another forms of violations and abuse. So in that sense, I think it's important for authorities from both sides not just to address the issues that is happening at the camps, the human trafficking camps, but also it's important for both governments to address the human rights violation that is happening right now in Rakhine State. I think once we are able to address the issues of influx of refugee in Myanmar and address the political issues there, I think it would be easier I guess more manageable for the authorities to address the human rights trafficking and the human rights crime that is happening in the borders itself. Although that's a long shot, but I think it adds to the credibility of ASEAN or ASEAN governments in trying to address issues that are overlapping and that can have overlapping consequences as well to each of the countries involved in the issue. On another hand, another issue that is happening right now that is quite huge in our neighboring country, Singapore. So apparently, Amos Yee, who is just barely 17 or 16, has been found guilty, and prosecution calls for probation report. Singaporean teenage blogger Amos Yee Pang Sai was found guilty of uploading an obscene image and making remarks intending to hurt the feelings of Christians on Tuesday. The prosecution, which argued that a fine was not sufficient, has called for a probation report to assess suitability for probation and reformative training. The 16-year-old needs counseling and probation. This is expressed by one of the prosecutor. The lawyer argued for a maximum sentence of 2 weeks jail if necessary, so he can walk free after backdating the sentence. He added that Yee does not want probation. Yee pleaded not guilty last week to both charges. Yee was charged in court on May 31st, 4 days after uploading a video criticizing Lee Kuan Yew, Singapore's founding Prime Minister, who died just over a year before. A day after Yee put up the video, he uploaded an image illustrating two people having sex, on which he superimposed the face of Lee and former British Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher. It's funny that this issue is such a grave concern in Singapore, but if you move it to other developed countries, like for example the US, it's kind of common for people to express their dissatisfaction to the government by having such things. I would say irresponsible activities, but I don't think he should be put in jail for such I would say activity, quote unquote. I think everyone should have the right to express themselves either in a tasteful manner or untasteful manner, or in a manner that they think that see fit on their feeling towards their government. And I think Singapore's government is a bit overreacting in a sense towards this 16-year-old kid. Maybe it's just a way Singapore does things. I mean, they have done quite grave human rights violation back in a few decades ago when Lee Kuan Yew was still in power. I think everyone remembers Operation Coal Storage, where a lot of activists, leftist politicians and all that were being rounded up. So I hope that the same thing won't happen again with Amos Yee, and I hope that there won't be any more lawsuit as a cover-up towards trying to reduce or trying to suppress the freedom of expression in Singapore. But at the same time, I think people can judge themselves whether whatever that he does is done with in a tasteful manner or not. But it's definitely not worth to be sent into jail or even reformative training, because this is not an attitude problem. It's just a kid expressing his dissatisfaction towards a government. And I think a government, or any government in that sense, should be able should have people should have the right to criticize any governments, and governments should be able to face criticism as graceful as possible, because at the end of the day, if you are doing your job, I think you don't have to feel bad about it, even if it's Lee Kuan Yew or any other politicians in that sense. So yeah, I think maybe Singapore government needs to rethink back how it addresses issues like this in the future, because then there will be another Amos Yee and they cannot be addressing the same kind of methods. It will only jeopardize the legitimacy of the government in the eyes of the people, especially people in Southeast Asia. On the other hand, we have Malaysian policeman threatens an anti-GST female detainee with rape. Oh, not again. So, a female youth detained over the May 1st anti-GST rally claims to have been threatened with rape and public humiliation by a police officer in order to get her to cooperate. Her name is Maisara Amina, who said that she was threatened at the Dang Wangi Police Headquarters, shared her experience at the Persatuan Kesedaran Community Selangor or Empower office here on Tuesday. The words he said were like this. He said to her that if you want me to rape you in this room, only you and I are here in this room. There's a camera and microphone, so if I sell the video, I can be rich. That was the exact quote that the policeman said to her, and she was definitely threatened that way, said the 21-year-old lady. Maisara, who was remanded for 4 days, was allegedly threatened by the officer while being questioned on May 5th, mere hours before her release. The perpetrator was not in uniform and did not have any identification on him. Her lawyers have demanded an independent probe into the matter and said the police have 48 hours to allow investigations into the rape threats to proceed at the Petaling Jaya headquarters instead of insisting it be conducted at the site of the offence. Empower Executive Director Maria Chin Abdullah called for retraining of the officer, as women groups have already lobbied the police to re-evaluate the way they handle their investigation. So, Malaysian police officer, I know there are a lot of good police officers out there, but for those that are not really doing their job, I would say please don't. Please don't. Especially threatening rape towards a woman, a young woman, is not the way forward in getting your information out there or getting people to cooperate with you. Perhaps there should be some form of police ethics among police officers to abide to. But of course, I can just say, but at the same time, I think awareness among the public about how what is their right and how they should handle things when they are being investigated by police is definitely most important. Especially there's a lot of cases of death in custody, abuse in custody, police custody. So this is something that of a grave concern for the Malaysian public, not just for the particular issue of the 21-year-old. I think as a whole, Malaysian public should be concerned on how police handle investigation, and in this sense, it's really important for Malaysian to be informed. So anyway, we will take one short break. When we return, we will discuss more on issues and matters in Southeast Asia.
ASEAN Dailies. First and the foremost news from Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene and you are back with me again on news in Southeast Asia. And of course, the next news is definitely related to the political issues that is happening right now in the Philippines. So youth group are challenging Aquino to debate on K-12. So nearly 3 years since the government began implementing its K-12 education reform program, and is still being opposed. The K-12 program does not take into account the labor rights of teaching and non-teaching staff who will be displaced by the program. So the youth group are challenging President Benigno Aquino III to a public debate on the issues surrounding the administration's landmark education reform program, or known to as K-12. The group says that the debate could be held at Plaza Miranda in Mendiola. The youth group maintained that K-12 program would only increase joblessness and drive more Filipinos to becoming migrant workers and not improve the quality of education itself. Last week, Senator Antonio Trillanes the sixth, and Magdalo Party List Representative Gary Alejandro and Francis Acedillo filed a petition asking the Supreme Court to declare the state education reform program as unconstitutional. In a statement issued on Monday, Communications Secretary Herminio Coloma Jr. defended the K-12 program, saying that it is essential to the country's future. The Department of Education said that it was also ready to implement the program. And on the other news, the K-12, which was enacted through the Republic Act number 10533 of the Enhanced Basic Education Act of 2013, have been met with public criticism, particularly from teachers, parents, and lawmakers. But what exactly is this K-12 program? It seems to be very much opposed by the general public in the Philippines. So K-12 program covers kindergarten and 12 years of basic education, of primary education, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school to provide sufficient time for mastery of concepts and skills, develop lifelong learners, and prepare graduates for tertiary education. And for more information about the K-12 program, you can visit gov.ph/K-12, and that's where you can learn more about what exactly the program is all about and how it will enhance the education system in the Philippines. But it seems like what the people of Philippines are thinking is not exactly the same in comparison what the government is sharing to the people of the Philippines. What it is trying to feature is strengthening, for the K-12 program, is strengthening early childhood education, making curriculum more relevant to learners, ensuring integrated and seamless learning, building proficiency through language, mother tongue-based multilingual education, and gearing up for the future, nurturing the holistic developed Filipino. And it's quite the website itself is quite good. It has a lot of information, infographics, and all that to explain about what is the K-12 program. We can have something like this in Malaysia as well. But one thing for sure, it definitely doesn't address a long-standing issue regarding on labor rights, regarding on non-teaching stuff, regarding on how it would in terms of facts and figures on how it would enhance and address Filipinos to be skilled workers rather than just another batch of migrant workers working in countries with little human rights protection. So I think what the civil society in the Philippines are looking at is enhancing quality, and they are not seeing it in the K-12 program. On another news, we have the same with the Philippines and Vietnam. We have Japan stepping up maritime engagement with these two countries. So it's interesting to see that Japan is stepping end? And why Japan have so much interest in the South China Sea? That's also a good question to ask. Tokyo boosts maritime ties with two nations at odds with Beijing over the disputed waterway. The Philippines and Japan hold their first joint naval exercises at the South China Sea on Tuesday, while Japan's Coast Guard works with Vietnam this week. Japan's cooperation follows a speech last year by Prime Minister Shinzo Abe vowing to help Southeast Asia maintain freedom of navigation and overflight in the region. The training also comes amid international criticism of China's reclamation around the 7 reefs in the Spratly chain of South China Sea and concerns of the US and the Philippines military officials that Beijing might eventually try to impose an exclusion zone over the disputed territory. The exercise followed a pact in January between Japan and the Philippines aimed at tightening security cooperation. The nature of the training is unlikely to worry China, as it has held similar exercises with the United States. But the presence of Japanese naval vessels in the South China Sea signals Japan's growing interest there. So I think for a long time when we talk about interest in Southeast Asia, in particularly in terms of its territorial disputed area, which is the South China Sea, we often think about China and the US, and of course a growing interest from India right now. But we almost forgotten that Japan has a stake in it as well, in a way that they are pretty interested and concerned with what is happening right now in terms of the maritime dispute at the South China Sea. Japan has long been a close ally of Southeast Asia. And in fact, Japan has been one of the highest contributors in terms of funding, resources. I mean, the ADB, ASEAN Development Bank of Japan, of course, has been one of the biggest, I would say, donors or funders for a lot of the key infrastructure projects in Southeast Asia. And with that, I think it's definitely not a surprise for Japan to stepping in the maritime engagement between the Philippines and Vietnam. But I hope that Japan will also engage with ASEAN on this particular issue, because I think it should be seen as an ASEAN issue, not just a bilateral conflict between Philippines, Vietnam, and China. I think at the long run, it will affect ASEAN as a whole. Like it or not, maybe I am on the camp where I believe ASEAN should be a collective body addressing issues that is impacting, especially international relations issue that would impact its member states. But of course, ASEAN itself is still finding its path or its way in terms of addressing foreign policy issues, addressing international relations issues with neighboring giants like India, China, of course the US, EU and all that. In trade, usually ASEAN will address this collectively. ASEAN++, ASEAN free trade agreement with EU, US, or even China. But I think in terms of security, political security, and also other areas, it is something that has not been part of the ASEAN territory yet to address such, I guess, complex issue. But yeah, it could be the way forward, using ASEAN to address issue on the South China Sea. On the other hand, of course, talking about business and economy, Samsung phones for global competitiveness. So just a bit of an update about Samsung. Chief Executive of Samsung Electronics plan to work at the company's overseas offices, including those in Silicon Valley and New York, on a regular basis, aiming to transform the Seoul-based tech giant into a truly global company. The Samsung CEO are expected to have meetings with top executives from global firms. The latest move of the tech giants is in line with the de facto Samsung head and Vice Chairman Lee Jae-yong's efforts to expand the electronic firm's overseas business. And in this case, facing challenges posed by rivals from China and the US. I think especially growing rivalry from China. We heard a lot about Xiaomi and all these really, I would say, tech-savvy Chinese company that have somehow expanded their market, especially in especially in Southeast Asia. So even though Samsung have made large strides in expanding its businesses and building up its brand image in foreign markets, Samsung executives themselves have pointed out that the company's overall management and corporate culture do not meet the standards of global firms. Since Samsung Group Chairman Lee Kun-hee was hospitalized after a heart attack in May 2014, Vice Chairman Lee has been trotting across the globe to have meetings with global partners as well as rivals, including Microsoft CEO Satya Nadella and Apple CEO Tim Cook. What he's trying to find right now is, in a way, to address issue of a global and working environment. You can have a global business, but at the end of the day, if you want to be a truly global firm, you have to go global in terms of your working culture. I'm talking about, on the other hand, talking about the company's annual revenue. More than 90% of the company's annual revenue comes from overseas market. Of the 206 trillion won, or equivalent to 188 billion US dollar, it earned last year, about 191 trillion won, or 92.6% of the revenue came from overseas sale. Since Samsung while the junior Lee has been filing the management vacuum created since last May, the Korean firm conducted 8 mergers and acquisitions of foreign firms in an effort to create new cash cows. But that is more of a short term, like how Facebook acquired a few companies, for example, Instagram and of course Google, with a few more companies. These cash cows are good, but at the long run, I think you have to look at the business as a whole. What is the core business, especially strengthening the core business. In this case, Samsung, its core business is definitely in terms of phones and other technology that it has making a lot of strides on. So I guess Samsung definitely needs to beef up its working environment and working culture. I don't think they can apply the same Korean working culture in a global environment. They need to figure it out on how to address a lot of the issues, a lot of the challenges, especially if they want to have headquarters in different countries, not in Korea. So they have to address how they can merge the Korean way of doing things with the local culture of understanding work ethics. And on the other hand, all the best for Samsung. Of course, the market for technology is very, very competitive, and only companies that are able to be more innovative, be able to get the best brains in the world globally, are able to move forward in terms of the technological food chain. Anyway, that's all from me today, Arlene, and of course you can listen to us more on our ASEAN Daily every Monday to Friday, 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock GMT plus 8 in the morning. And you can listen to us also via podcast on YouTube. And you can engage with us through social media like Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. And of course, definitely, you can go to our website at DurianASEAN.com. You can listen via mobile on the go as well. Just by downloading the TuneIn app and search for DurianASEAN. I hope that you have a really nice Wednesday today. And of course, for mothers out there, again, I want to wish Happy Mother's Day. I know it was last Sunday, but yeah, every day should be a Mother's Day.